President Joe Biden gave his address to Congress on April 28, 2021. Senator Marco Rubio noted, "It's interesting. When it came to coming together to impeach Donald Trump for the second time after he was out of office, they put 100 senators in the same room, sitting just inches apart for hours at a time over 5 or 6 days. Apparently, COVID was not an issue then. But now, of course, for something like this, we can't have more than 200 people in the room sitting next to each other, so it's kind of silly season here. We've got 3 of the dumbest people in politics in charge of our nation's fiscal and military policy. People like Speaker Nancy Pelosi were quite open about the fact that they viewed the COOF and George Floyd as opportunities to spend other people's money and to restructure the government and our election system so that they never lose elections again. Margaret Thatcher observed that socialism is great until you run out of other people's money. This was never truer in 2021, where Democrats have bled our country's funds dry and plan to take even more money from taxpayers to reward Democrat governors who foolishly locked down their states and shut down their economies. Raising taxes on the wealthy looks good on paper, but the wealthy will simply alter their spending habits to not pay the higher taxes, leaving Biden's revenue predictions as worthless as his other pronouncements. In the first 2 minutes, Biden referenced that he was under personal attack by the January 6th mob that came to drag him out of the White House. This guy wasn't even in Washington on January 6th, yet in his mind, he apparently thinks that these 25 to 50 people were coming to get him personally. Make no mistake, Biden and his team viewed that insurrection as an opportunity to demand that Republicans pass everything they want without argument, and that it meant any resistance to their rule should be illegal. Biden is very generous with your money, with your children's money. It's what animates him. Spending your money keeps him awake through this speech. Biden expressed admiration with how Xi of China can just order things done as an autocrat. He hinted that Republicans need to just go along with whatever he wants, or America will fall behind and not be able to compete on the world stage. His speech was all about endless socialist money grabs. He talked about how he's going to create jobs and things are going to be made in America again. Is that anything like Make America Great Again? How can we make things here when he's going to tax and regulate these companies out of existence or force them to relocate their factories overseas, like Ford just decided to do? Biden has recycled his speech from the speeches he made all through 2020. Go watch his speech before the Democratic National Committee Convention in 2020. Hope not fear, light not darkness. This guy also repeated this same speech for Christmas last year. Go watch the speeches if you can stomach them. As Biden continued talking, my wallet kept getting lighter and lighter. I just checked it now at the 30-minute mark. My wallet is empty. Biden's compassion means taking my money and giving it to unions and government bureaucrats, who will then recycle my money straight back to the Democratic Party. This is a pyramid Ponzi scheme, not responsible government. Watch Kamala during this address to Congress. Kamala Harris is watching Biden like a hawk, waiting for a sign of weakness. Her gaze is of, I will take over this second if I see him waver in the slightest. Fall down, old man, fall down. These people simply suck. And a hat tip to the late Rush Limbaugh. Why didn't Biden solve all of these dire emergencies during his 8 years of Obama-Biden and his 40 years in the Senate? This is a hyper-partisan speech, with Biden attacking billionaires and millionaires right after saying people are all going to get these good-paying jobs. Biden says that trickle-down economics have never worked, getting a standing ovation from the partisan Democrats with all the Republicans sitting. He says, we're going to do it by meeting with our allies. He can't stop attacking Trump for something that never happened. Trump regularly met with allies and signed new trade agreements. Biden said, there's no wall high enough to keep any virus out, especially when you don't test anyone released into our country from the open southern border. Biden said, every American will have access to COVID-19 vaccines. They will be covered. When did the previous president say that they couldn't? Biden is not a unifier in any sense. He's taking credit for Operation Warp Speed, which thousands of members of the news media vilified as something that could never work. Biden said no American president should ignore human rights abuses, a reference to the 100% fake news stories on Trump collecting Russian bounties, Trump killing a Saudi journalist, this and that. It never ended. Biden has no idea what is real or not. He just gets news summaries from hacks attacking Trump over ridiculous accusations that were never true in the first place. Biden said, not meant to be nation building. Here he manages to wiggle out of his vote for the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's nice to be able to blame Bush after 20 years when Biden voted for all of it. Biden is complaining about Russia conducting escalation. He's complaining about Trump somehow caving to Russia. But this never happened. This was a summary written in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, or the New York Times. Someone summarized it for Biden down to a paragraph, and then Biden remembered a sentence out of the summary. That's not criticism. Biden was speaking for almost an hour, and not one word of the pressing need to fix the problems in Democrat-run cities like Minneapolis. Biden said, and we won't ignore what Homeland Security has determined is the most lethal threat today. White supremacy is terrorism. Funny how we didn't see a bit of that during the so-called insurrection. Biden invoked speaking to Little Tyke, George Floyd's daughter, a year ago. This is the Democrat tactic, to somehow magically wave a wand and pretend that patriots supporting Donald Trump are somehow racist and somehow magically kill George Floyd. Floyd was killed by a Democrat police department, hired and trained by a Democrat city council, Democrat mayor, Democrat-run county, and Democrat-run state with a Democrat governor. What a magic trick for Biden to somehow magically flip all of that so that Donald Trump and his MAGA supporters killed George Floyd. All the oppression that blacks are suffering from systemic racism is in cities that have been run by white Democrats for 70 plus years. Biden said, after the conviction of George Floyd's murderer, so I guess supporting police goes out the window when he gets the verdict he wanted. Throw the cop to the mob. Everything Biden said last year about equally supporting the police and the people that they were pledged to protect, I guess he didn't really mean any of that. Right after invoking George Floyd, Biden said, if we have the courage to act in the Congress. So that is the Democrat plan, to hector, harangue, divide, polarize. If you disagree with any premise of Biden's, you are the killer of George Floyd. You are the cause of things not getting done. Mitch McConnell is the villain if you don't agree with every premise in Biden's little fantasy. Precisely what he said 100 days ago in his inaugural address. Do as I say, do what I say, or you're a racist insurrectionist, is the message from this uniter. Biden said, we've all seen the knee of injustice on the neck of black Americans. How does the Democratic Party skirt all blame for this? Because the news media won't blame them. Just like when Democrats ran everything at a local and state level in Charlottesville, Virginia. Somehow Trump caused the bloody riot there. Democrats get to rewrite history and reality because no one challenges Biden's lies. To paraphrase Nancy Pelosi from last year, Biden's entire speech is a pack of lies. Recycled from the 2020 campaign, recycled from Democrat talking points when Trump first took office. None of it was true, but these accusations are true in Biden's mind. The rest of his speech is complaining that all of the bad ideas he proposed over 40 years in the Senate never got passed. They didn't get passed because they were bad ideas. You don't get a do-over for a lifetime of failed policies just by waving George Floyd's bloody shirt in front of everyone's faces and saying, "You see, pass everything I want, or you put your knee on George Floyd's neck." That's a BS attitude and the most divisive speech a president could give. Biden said, "We need to root out systemic racism in our criminal justice system." I seem to remember Trump signing prison reform, which Obama-Biden never even tried to pass. Biden said, "But let's get it done next month, by the first anniversary of George Floyd's death." Pass precisely what the Democratic Party wants, or be blamed for killing George Floyd all over again. When did George Floyd become a civil rights hero? You now have a right to rob stores while high on fentanyl and cannabinoids? Since when? Biden said, "We have a real chance to root out systemic racism that plagues America." So, all of the decades of public housing, welfare, affirmative action, and looking the other way as entire cities fall into hopelessness and despair didn't work? The American taxpayer deserves a refund. They don't deserve to be told, "Thanks for all the money, and you're racists, by the way." Biden rattles off one act after another that he wants passed on his wish list. The Anti-Asian Violence Act was passed, but he also wants a Women's Act, a Trans Rights Act. So we have to pass 100% of what Biden wants, close non-existent legal loopholes for gun ownership, or be termed anti-progress, anti-women, anti-everything. This is not the uniter. Biden is the disuniter. Biden mentions the shooting of 8 people in Georgia by a customer who liked getting Asian massages. How is that an anti-Asian hate crime if this guy frequented Asian massage parlors? Biden also mentions the 10 people shot in Colorado. He doesn't know that the shooter was a Syrian immigrant, probably expressing rage at Biden himself for ordering airstrikes in Syria less than a month before the Colorado shootings. Biden is clueless. A Syrian immigrant shoots people, and Biden's response is to blame the gun. Biden said, "We beat the NRA." Biden is clear who his enemies are: taxpayers, patriots, factory owners, legal gun owners. This is the most partisan speech I've ever seen a president give. I thought that Trump was supposed to be the problem dividing our nation. Yet it was Obama-Biden dividing our nation for 8 years. And Biden is at it again. This is disgusting. Biden continues laying out his support for victims of gun violence. Gee, I wonder how many drug cartels, drug-running mules and coyotes, and MS-13 gang members are being waved through with Biden's open borders right now. How many terrorist groups are being waved through with no restrictions on travel? Biden even hands them travel money and hotel funds. Biden said, "Talk to the most responsible gun owners and they'll tell you there's no possible justification for 100 rounds. Actually, the Second Amendment is there to protect us from tyrannical government, which takes our money and takes our rights away." A union member confronted Biden on this specifically last year.
I'd like you to explain how you plan to not only keep us working, but how you intend on getting the union vote when there is a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
Now, no, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my sons hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were with Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns, that
I
means
did
what?
not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
Well, it's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out that are simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the gun.
Well, he just clarified it.
Wait. Hey, take your AR-14s.
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Hey, let's
Don't tell me anything. I want to go outside.
There's a lot of guys.
Hey, you're
guys
working for
wanted.
me, man.
I'm not working.
Hold on.
Give me a break, man.
You're
Don't be such a
pushing
horse
up on me.
Hey, there's a lot of.
Hey.
Speak to Joe.
Look, here's the deal.
Okay, go.
Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun?
Why on a machine
I said, are you able to own one? I'm the law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that in a machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
Deaths in America from handguns than there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying by handguns?
No, come on.
So to sum up Biden's entire speech, you are a racist insurrectionist if you don't pass everything that I want to ram through Congress. Biden talks about how he's going to secure the southern border. It amazes me that we have military bases across all of these border states, and the troops within patrol their security fences and never leave their base. Why aren't these soldiers patrolling our nation's border instead? It's ridiculous. Biden wraps up his immigration portion by calling all illegals simply immigrants who need a pathway to citizenship. Thank goodness they can all be pre-registered to the Democratic Party, because there's not a single Republican leader in Congress willing to stand up for our country. The whole speech is Biden haranguing Republicans for not acting. Biden cites the violent mob of January 6th for the third time in this speech near the end. This insurrection never happened. Biden presents the issue as division and rage and the mob that assaulted the Capitol. He has no mention of any mob looting and burning their way across dozens of Democrat-run cities last year. In his mind, it never happened. Biden still doesn't know that a single Democrat mob burned, looted, or destroyed anything last year or this year. It was all Trump supporters in his demented mind. Go back and review his Pittsburg speech in 2020. He says exactly this. Biden says, "That's all I'm asking, that we do our part, that we all do our part," which will be accomplished by voting Joe Biden and the rest of his team out of office, along with every other divisive Democrat who divided our country and burned our cities to increase their own power and to grab money that isn't theirs. Biden said, in closing, "So let's begin to get together." What he really means is, on my terms, or I'll call you a racist and insurrectionist.